president has made a decision to suspend all travel to the United Kingdom and Ireland.
The White House extends its European travel ban. British and Irish passengers are now on the list as the United States tries to stem the spread of the coronavirus. The number of cases of COVID-19 continues to rise in this country, and there's been another big jump in Ontario. 22 new cases in Ontario were announced on Saturday, bringing the total to 103. BC is reporting another 9 people with coronavirus, bringing the number in that province up to 72 with 1 presumptive case. Alberta announced 10 new cases for a total now of 39. Quebec has 24 cases. Manitoba has 4. 2 cases that were presumptive in Saskatchewan have now been confirmed. New Brunswick has its first confirmed case and 1 presumptive one. Prince Edward Island has announced its first confirmed infection, and Newfoundland has also joined the ranks with 1 presumptive case. There are also 4 repatriated Canadians with coronavirus under quarantine in Trenton, Ontario. All were passengers on the Grand Princess cruise ship. While the number of COVID-19 cases is rising, health officials remind people to stay calm even if they do get the virus. According to data released by Johns Hopkins University, the majority of people who have become sick have already recovered, and only a small fraction of those who get COVID-19 die from the disease. Most who die had pre-existing health conditions. Canada has not taken the step of closing its borders, but Ottawa is sending a strong warning to Canadians abroad. Steve Niles is watching how the government is reacting and recommending to its citizens.
They're saying if you are out of the country right now, get back as soon as you possibly can, because we don't know what flight will be available to you if and when the time comes. So let's take a look at a tweet we got from our Foreign Minister, François-Philippe Champagne, saying official advice to Canadians abroad. We recommend that Canadian travelers return to Canada via commercial means while they remain available. And it's that while they remain available that is the concern for some people, because we're not sure how long some airlines are going to be flying to and from Canada for a couple different reasons. We haven't heard anything from Ottawa. Let me stress, we have not heard anything from the federal government about closing borders or banning flights or anything like that. But there's a couple different reasons why Canadians abroad might have trouble coming back to this country. For example, the U.S. has put in the travel ban on Europe. So if you're in Europe right now, you wouldn't be able to connect through the United States back into Canada. Some European countries and many countries around the world have put in travel restrictions. So right now in Poland, for example, they have banned international flights. So if you're in Poland, you can't fly from Poland to Canada or anywhere else in the world for that matter. Businesses as well. The airlines, Southwest Airlines a few hours ago was saying we might be cutting back on flights because of lower demand because of the coronavirus. So for that reason, commercial flights may no longer be available for wherever Canadians happen to be around the world. That's why Minister Champagne is saying come back while you still can. That might not be so easy, though, with so many people lining up to get on these planes. That might not be possible. It's worth noting this is an escalation in the advice that we've heard from Ottawa. Previously, they were saying, if you're in this country, don't go. Now they're saying, if you're out of this country, come back ASAP. Natasha?
So let's talk about on the provincial level. What have we been hearing over the course of the day from all the various governments?
Quite a lot. It seems like we've heard from every single province in this country in some way, shape, or form today. Let's take a look at some of the highlights that we've seen from various provinces. We'll start west, moving east. We'll start in Alberta, what we've heard from them. They announced some more cases today, the majority of which are travel-related. For the time being, Alberta says they're going to keep their schools open, although they say they are monitoring the situation minute by minute. In Manitoba, more cases announced today. Schools will be closing, but not until Friday. So in the meantime, with 5 more days of classes coming up this week, they're saying if you're sick, stay home. They're even saying things like, let's move the desks a little bit further apart to add to some of the social isolation measures. In Quebec, the premier there, he is saying if you are 70 years of age or over, stay home and self-isolate. It has nothing to do if you've traveled. They're saying because elderly people in this country and around the world are at a greater risk from this virus, so stay home. Just make sure you do not get sick in the first place. Prince Edward Island, they have announced its first confirmed case. They are saying that anybody who traveled outside, any residents of PEI, if you traveled outside of the country on March 8th or later, they want you to self-quarantine, regardless of where you went. Spend 14 days in self-isolation. Speaking of self-isolation, the premier of that province quarantining himself right now. And in Newfoundland, their first presumptive case at this time. Again, like many provinces, they're saying if you've traveled. They want you to quarantine. They're also adding, though, that they're going to compensate private sector employees if they have lost wages. No details on that right now. They say that will come in the coming days. To reiterate this, Natasha, I was saying we've heard from pretty much everyone in the province right now. Nova Scotia, the only province right now without a case of this virus.
Justin Trudeau says he has spoken to U.S. President Donald Trump about the coronavirus pandemic and that the pair will remain in contact as the situation continues to develop. In a tweet, the Prime Minister says they discussed efforts to keep both Canadians and Americans safe. Trudeau was responding to an earlier tweet from President Trump, which wished Sophie Gregoire Trudeau well and also spoke to a coordinated effort between Canada and the United States to stem the spread of COVID-19. Meanwhile, Trump's doctor has announced that the president does not have the coronavirus. There was some concern about his exposure after 2 Brazilian officials who he had met with had tested positive. A statement from the White House says he remains symptom-free 1 week after a dinner with that delegation. Trump took the test on Friday night after initially saying he was unconcerned about the contact. Spain is the latest country to declare a state of emergency in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. For the next 15 days, the country will be under a nationwide lockdown. Spain has the second highest number of coronavirus cases in Europe after Italy. And there's also some breaking news from that country. The wife of the Spanish Prime Minister has tested positive for COVID-19. We spoke with freelance reporter Miles Roston before that news broke. He joined us from the deserted streets of Barcelona with more on some of the measures Spain is taking.
These are extraordinary measures in a country like Spain, which has only taken the state of alarm or state of emergency 2 times since the dictatorship, 1 time before and now. And so they're taking it very seriously, and it's a federal measure, and they're basically trying to keep everybody indoors. Since Saturday night, this plaza behind me is normally bustling. There's nobody on the streets. There's nobody going anywhere. And people are taking it very seriously. They went shopping. First thing in the morning, I looked out, and they're on the lines just to make sure they get stuff. There's no panic about toilet paper, as we've seen sometimes in places, but people are really making sure that they're hunking down, and also I think really trying to take care of their population, because this is a community where the people take care of each other. The elderly in general take care of the grandchildren, and that's why they close the schools down, to make sure that actually everybody's safe as much as possible. So people are taking it very seriously right now.
So you've given us a sense of how the people are coping with this, what measures they're taking, but on a practical front, what are the chances that these measures are actually going to be successful in combating the spread of the virus?
That's the billion-dollar question, right? Because, in Italy, we're in touch with people. In Italy, we don't know what's happening there. And also here, there are regional conflicts too, because Catalonia, which is always one of the independents, and the Basque region are actually not very happy with what the federal government is doing right now, because they are not being consulted as much as they want it to be. So while the individual populations are actually taking it very seriously, the question will be how long this plays out, how long will it take to actually find any real results, and will people stay in touch with this and stay with it along the lines as is necessary. But there isn't. I think the people's point of view, they know that they have to stay in and take care of their populations. The governments, of course, are taking it seriously too, but there are political ramifications, and obviously we're all hoping for the best. There's no, this is uncharted territory. We don't know what goes next.
That was freelance reporter Miles Roston speaking to us from Barcelona earlier. That was before breaking news that the Spanish Prime Minister's wife has tested positive for COVID-19. This scene also in Spain, a tribute from lockdown people in Madrid to healthcare workers battling the pandemic. The collective applause began with a call on social media, and it took place at 10 p.m. local time right across the country. Italy has experienced a major jump in its number of cases and deaths. The country announced that another 3,500 people have become infected. Italy now has over 21,000 cases of COVID-19. The death toll has also gone up, bringing the total number of dead to more than 1,400. Italy is the worst affected country in the world outside of China, and a nationwide lockdown remains in effect for Italy and its 60 million residents. Hoping to limit the outbreak in France, authorities have shut down most shops, restaurants, and entertainment venues. The doors are now closed with no indication of when they will reopen. There are some exceptions for grocery stores, pharmacies, and gas stations. Public transportation will remain open, but people are being urged to limit their use of that service. France has almost 4,500 confirmed cases of coronavirus, and more than 90 people have died. As Canadians face the COVID-19 pandemic, we want to make sure more people have access to the latest information. Therefore, CBC News Network is now going to be available to all subscribers on Bell TV, Shaw, and Cogeco. It is also free on CBC Gem, cbcnews.ca, and the CBC News app. Stay with us. We're going to bring you all the latest developments on this story straight ahead.